26 things I have learned in 26 years. Routine is everything for me. I am a people pleaser to my core. Things that I have learned that I am not good at. They said I'm not very good at chilling. And I'm not. I'm terrible at chilling. Do not get me wrong. I also love to have fun, have some drinks, go out with friends. But that is the true Gemini in me. Hey guys, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Catch Ups in My Kitchen with me, Georgia Simmons, host of the podcast. And this week we have another solo episode because I am turning 26 on Sunday, so I thought I would do 26 things I have learned in 26 years. Honestly, there is nothing weirder than doing a solo episode in your own flat, in your own kitchen. Setting up and talking to the camera does not feel normal. And I'm actually more nervous about recording the solo episodes than I am about recording with a guest, which is very odd, but I love birthdays, which is one of the things I've learned in 26 years. I absolutely love birthdays, so I thought I would celebrate with a solo episode. So I'm not going to let this take up too much time, but I just thought 26 learnings would be quite interesting. So number one, I thought we'd talk about 20s and our 20s. And one thing I have learned so far in my 20s is that it is all about trial and error. It's all about how many experiences can you learn from in your 20s so that when you get to your 30s, you're like, okay, I've tried and I now know what doesn't work for me and I know what does work for me. And my God, I feel like I have tried so many different things in my 20s so far. Whether it's so many different businesses, I have tried a food delivery service, I have tried a marketing PR agency, I have tried a food blog, I've tried multiple blogs actually, I've tried setting up a business where I sourced really niche products for kind of restaurants and bakeries and cafes. That one didn't last too long. And I don't think I've finished there. I'm obviously doing the podcast. So yeah, I've tried quite a few things. I used to work for a swimwear brand. I've done so many different work experiences. So I think it's all about trial and error when it comes to your 20s. That is definitely what I've learned. And constantly learning is another thing that I think is so important. And like, for example, I'm plant-based and I think that it's okay to still learn about your diet and learn about what works for you and what doesn't. And even if plant-based or a certain diet works for you at one point, it might not always work for you. And one thing that someone said to me on the podcast is it's really good to be a contributor and not an expert. And I love this. So I obviously meet different people every week on the podcast, and I then try and implement what they have taught me or what they've explained to me in my own life. But that means that they've contributed something to my life and I'm now adding it into mine. But I'm not an expert by any means. And that's why on the podcast, I hope to kind of be contributing what I've learned to you guys, but by no means am I an expert. And actually, I think people tend to listen more to contributors rather than experts. Like, no one wants to be preached to. So yeah, constantly learning is really, really good. And I think it just shows that you're wanting to always self-develop and evolve, which I think is a really good skill to have. And then talking of kind of like constantly learning, I would say that like we shouldn't be putting ourselves into categories. So as I mentioned with like being plant-based, I mean, I say I'm plant-based, but I eat eggs. And if I want an almond croissant, I'm going to eat an almond croissant. And that is definitely not plant-based by the book, but that's okay. I don't think we should put labels on ourselves or kind of say that we're one thing, because that definitely does restrict us. And I think fluidity is so, so key and kind of changing with the times. I think COVID taught us that as well. Like with different businesses, I think you realize that life can change really, really quickly and you've got to be able to adapt and to change. So yeah, that's something that I've definitely learned along the way. And also with that, I think with workouts, I think I've learned that not one workout works for you, multiple workouts work for you, but not all workouts work for you, if that makes any sense. So for example, with me, I've learned that my body really suits Pilates, running and strength training. And I think doing a variety of different workouts is really good because it hits different parts of the body, keeps the body on its toes. I think if you just run, then you wouldn't be working on other areas, or if you just did Pilates, then you may not be working on your cardio. So I think, again, don't just put yourself into one box and say like, I'm a Pilates girly, full stop. Okay, great. But I think you could also add in other things to make yourself feel better and keep your body on its toes. So yeah, I think not putting ourselves into boxes, not putting labels on ourselves is something that I've definitely learned along the way. Okay, I have learned that I am definitely a morning person. 6:30 is the time that I like to get up, kind of Monday to Friday. And that is because my non-negotiables are in the morning. So I love to gym before I do anything else. I like to get outside and walk the dog, and I love to have a delicious breakfast. And those are my non-negotiables that I don't want to rush. So I prefer to get up earlier, get those things done, than to wait, rush them, or just to miss them. If I miss them, I am not in a good mood that day, that is for sure. So yeah, and I also perform a lot better in the mornings. Like all my podcasts are filmed in the morning. I actually went to Soho House yesterday afternoon to work, and I got there and I was like, oh my God, I'm actually going to be useless. Like, it's the afternoon. I'm just going to be rubbish. And yeah, my productivity wasn't great. So I've definitely learned that I am a morning person. And I have learned that my favorite meal of the day is definitely breakfast. I absolutely love it, to the extent where I actually go to bed thinking about my breakfast the next day, which is a little bit strange, but like, I'd actually prefer to miss dinner than miss breakfast. And I know that sounds really weird. Obviously, don't miss meals, but like, if I had to pick one to miss, I would be missing dinner over breakfast any day of the week. Okay, routine. Oh my God. I am such a routine person. If you guys follow me, you will see my schedules on my story every day. Routine is everything for me. And blocking out my time just makes me so much more productive, so much more motivated. And I just don't think I could run my days without it. Routine is definitely everything. And even on the weekends, although I don't kind of post about my schedules because I think people would think I'm insane, I do kind of block out my weekends as well. It just helps me like get everything in, and like shows me that I do have enough time in the day. I think often we think, oh my God, there's not enough hours, which, do not get me wrong, sometimes there definitely aren't. But if you kind of look into blocking your day, you're like, oh, actually there are enough hours in my day to get my workout in, eat clean, and do all the work that I need to do, and also have a life. But that also is another thing I've learned, is that I am a huge control freak. When it comes to my time, when it comes to my food, when it comes to everything really. The fact that I'm recording my podcast at home in my kitchen, I do all the editing, probably sums that up. Like, why can't I let someone else take on some of the work? I have now got an editor, I have to say, who is a huge help. But yeah, I'm definitely a control freak and don't like letting things go, which is a learning that is good, I guess. But also I need to kind of work on delegating a little bit more. But do not get me wrong, I also love to have fun, have some drinks, go out with friends. But that is a true Gemini in me, I guess. And also I do slot that into my days. So yeah, the control freak is in me through and through. Next learning is boundaries. So again, this is something that I'm constantly learning, I think. I think I'm actually quite a private person. Although I have this podcast and I share a lot about my life on here, there are definitely things I don't share and don't want to share and try and keep quite private. For example, relationships is something that I don't tend to share that much on here. And I think it's okay and quite good to have some things that you don't share and have those boundaries. And again, boundaries can change. Like, I don't think we should be restricting ourselves too much. But yes, I would definitely say I have some of those in place, but some of those I need to work on a bit more, because I am a people pleaser to my core. That is another learning that I have. Oh my God, I am such a people pleaser, which is a good thing and a bad thing. There are definitely pros and cons, but when it comes to boundaries, I think being a people pleaser can be really hard, because often you prioritize pleasing someone else rather than sticking to your own boundaries. But I think practice makes perfect with all of that, and I'm definitely still learning it. For example, like putting my phone on do not disturb mode so that I am focusing on what I want to be doing, because ultimately no one is going to care as much about what you have to do than yourself. And that is something that we've got to learn. Like, yes, we have our friends and our family, but ultimately they've got their own shit to deal with. So we need to be focusing on ourselves. So people pleasing is difficult, and difficult in business as well, right? Because like, you've got to be savvy, and you've got to put your business and like your finances and like your work first, and you've got to run the business. But being a people pleaser, sometimes those boundaries can be crossed. So these are all things that I'm like definitely aware of, but definitely still learning. Okay, number 11, I'd say I've learned that it's really, really important to enjoy your own company. I've learned this the hard way. I work on my own, I live on my own, and that's a lot of alone time. And actually, I think my balance is not quite right yet. But learning to enjoy your own company is a huge strength, because getting to know yourself is so important, because you can't let anyone else get to know you if you don't know you. And whether that means you've got to spend some time with yourself to get to know yourself, and that could mean going for a solo coffee. And sometimes it can feel really uncomfortable. Like right now, I'm sat at my kitchen table talking to my camera, which does not feel natural. It does feel uncomfortable. But it's these moments of uncomfort where we get to know ourselves better, and then you reflect and like, oh, I'm really great at that part and I'm not so great at that part, or I know I need this in life and I'm actually okay without this. So if you're someone who always needs someone or always needs to be around someone, maybe try and work on just going for a walk and not calling someone. Like for me, that was a huge thing. I was like, I just need to be in my own company and like truly get to know myself. That does take time. I think I know myself now. If I didn't, after living on my own and working on my own, I would be concerned. But yeah, I think it is really important to enjoy your own company. Okay, how to stay motivated. This is something that I've definitely learned, because I have pivoted and twisted so many times and I am still so motivated. And the thing that I've learned about this, and someone that actually taught me this on the podcast, they said that motivation comes and goes, but it's drive, determination, and discipline that is always a constant. And I was like, wow, that is so true. Like my routine and my structure is my discipline, and that is what keeps me motivated. Like sometimes I don't actually have time to think about, am I motivated today or not? Because I've written out my timetable, I've got my structure in place, and we're just moving on to the next thing. I do have that kind of gold star and that kind of pinnacle point that I want to get to. And obviously that's always pushing forward and moving. But motivation is definitely fleeting. Like you may listen to a song and feel motivated, or watch a film and feel motivated. But it's the discipline, the drive, and the determination that is the actual behind the scenes of the motivation, if that makes sense. So yeah, like some days I feel less motivated than others, but because of structure, you kind of just keep going. Okay, yeah, number 13, I love a to-do list. That kind of leads on to what I was just saying. I love a to-do list. Ticking things off, oh my God, the satisfaction. I even break down like bigger tasks into smaller tasks just so I can tick it off. So yeah, love a to-do list, and I love how neat it is. My maps, oh my God, absolutely not. They do not work for me. But to-do lists, yeah, I can definitely work with those. Okay, one thing I have learned, oh my God, this is a big one for me. If you don't ask, you don't get. Wow. Okay, with the podcast, this is a big one. For example, people say, how did you get XYZ guest on? If you don't ask, you don't get. There is no magic solution to how I get the guests on, or anything in life for that point. Like, if you don't ask, you don't get. And like, what's the worst that can happen? They say no, sorry, or they ignore you. Okay, ask again. Like, I am the biggest chaser, honestly. I have messages with people where I am just like basically in conversation with myself. But you know what? Pride goes out the window, because ultimately, if you want it, you got to ask for it and you might get it. And if you don't, well, at least you tried. Okay. Things that I have learned that I am not good at. This is interesting. Finance and numbers. That is not my thing. That is not my thing at all. I have help with this, thank God. I have people around me who are better than me at finance and numbers, because this is not my strength. And I have learned that for sure. I am terrible at saying no. Yeah, that goes into the people pleasing category. I'm really bad at saying no. But again, practice makes perfect. And I have to also say that I'm currently in a bit of a yes era. I think in your 20s, as I mentioned earlier, like it is a time for trial and error. So I try and say yes to as many opportunities and things as I can, because another thing that I have learned is that you're not going to find opportunities sat in your flat. And this is something that I often tell myself when I am sat in my flat working. Opportunities don't just land in your inbox or land in your DMs. You have to go out there and get them. So yeah, saying yes to as many things as possible is great. But obviously, sometimes you have to put yourself first, and saying no is important. And I'm not very good at that. But I would say I am in a yes moment, a yes era, if you want to call it that, as we are in the land of eras at the moment. So yeah, I would say trying to say yes to as many things as possible is quite important for me right now. I'm not very good at prioritizing sleep. That is one thing. When things get busy, I will push sleep down rather than compromise on my non-negotiables, which is working out in the morning and having a good breakfast and walking outside and taking my dog for a walk. So that's not great, because we now know through so many studies, so many podcasts about how important sleep is. And I'm told so many times by people on the podcast how important sleep is. But it is a one thing that I often do push, and I'm not very good at it. Like, I lie in bed and my mind just goes into overdrive, and I'm thinking about all the things I need to do, all the guests I could get on, where I'm going next. Like, why does that happen? It's so annoying. And I am trying to work on that sleep routine and nighttime routine, which I do have in place. But yeah, sleep I'm not very good at. Okay, I actually asked my family. I sent a message to my family group chat, like, guys, what am I not very good at? And they all came back with the same thing. So at least I'm consistent. They said I'm not very good at chilling. And I'm not. I'm terrible at chilling. I am always doing something. I'm always on my phone. I'm always thinking about the next thing. I'm always standing up. I just cannot sit still. Those are two things. I'm not good at chilling, and I'm not good at sitting still. Like, watching a movie for me is really hard. But if I'm watching a movie with someone else, I don't want to disrupt their film time, so I will sit there, and that helps me massively. But everyone's like, oh, like, are you going to have a nice chilled Saturday watching a movie? Me, what? No, that sounds like hell. Like, I can't do that. And I wish I could. Honestly, I wish I could. I am just rubbish at it. So yeah, mum, dad, and Charlie all said, yeah, you're terrible at chilling. So yeah. And honestly, everyone's like, oh, that's a great problem to have. Honestly, it's not, because it's really important to chill. And I'm not very good at that. Yeah, I'm not very good at taking the easy route. That's what my mum also said. And I get that. I always try and make life hard work for myself. I'm like, how many things can I fit into one day? And then I'm like rushing around like a crazy person. Like, why can't I just take the easy route and not do as much in one day? And then it will be a lot more enjoyable. I don't know. I need to work on that. Okay, I've got 5 more things I have learned, and these are all about foodie recommendations and foodie tips and tricks. I have learned the value in food prepping. So if the oven is on, think about what else you can pop in the oven to make your life easier. Whether that is roasting some almonds to put on as a salad topper, whether that's roasting up more veg so you have roasted veg in your fridge, whatever it is, I try and utilize my time cooking as much as I can, so that when the kitchen is then closed, you have like options in your fridge. If you want to pick up like a healthy snack, or you want to make a meal really quickly, you have a lot of the components. Even if it's just like steaming some veg. So for example, in my fridge right now, I have some steamed kale just sat in a glass Tupperware, which is great because like if I want to quickly make a salad or put something together, I have that in my fridge already done, and it just saves time. I guess it's kind of like a productivity hack. So yeah, and if you think, oh my God, I don't have time to food prep, I feel you. I'm not saying make like 5 dressings, 3 proteins, grains. I'm not saying that. I'm saying just like utilize your cooking time as much as you can, and always kind of do more. And I'm not saying make more of that meal so you have to have that meal 5 times. That is boring for me. I mean, like, if you're doing something with roasted veg, roast up a load more veg and pop it in a Tupperware so you have it for when you need it. Or if you're doing like tofu noodles, like fry up some more tofu and put it in Tupperware so you can add that tofu or chicken or salmon or whatever to other dishes. I have learned that I am a chocoholic. I'm obsessed with chocolate. I always have been. Dark chocolate is my go-to, and the brand Who is definitely my favorite. So if anyone wants to kind of send me some Who, please do. Okay, some other little tips and tricks when it comes to food. Hot water at night is the best way to kind of reset. I have learned this from my dad. I've literally had this as long as I can remember. Everyone kind of says chamomile tea or whatever. No, for me, just hot water really kind of cleanses me, and I think it really helps with digestion. I think my dad said that his grandma lived to like in her 90s and she always had hot water before she went to bed. So he does it and then I do it. And honestly, it's delicious is the wrong word, but it feels great. So yeah, hot water before bed, try it. Let me know what you think. I love hummus, and the best brand of hummus is Moorish. Their smoked hummus is absolutely to die for. If you haven't tried it, do try. I hope you appreciate these little tips and tricks, by the way. Okay, I have learnt about how bad oat milk is for us. But again, life is too short to like cut something completely out of my diet. And I do love a oat milk cappuccino if I'm going somewhere nice, I want to treat myself. And also I only have one coffee a day, so I do believe that a small amount of oat milk isn't going to kill me. But the best almond milk to have in my coffee, and I always have almond milk at home, is the Rude Health Barista. So if you're struggling to work out what milk to have in your coffee, give the Rude Health Barista a try and let me know what you think. And my final thing that I have learned in my 26 years is having fun and being happy are the two most important things in life. And honestly, I often forget that. I love to have fun and I'm always quite happy, but sometimes I put other things first. But ultimately, life is too short not to be having fun and not to be happy. And that is when it comes to work, when it comes to relationships. If you're sat here thinking, is this relationship right for me? Is this friendship right for me? Is this job right for me? Is my housemate right for me? Just think, in their company or when I'm at work, am I having fun and am I happy? And honestly, those are the questions you should be asking yourself. And make sure you do have fun and be happy, because yeah, life is too short. And make sure you celebrate your birthdays. I mean, honestly, I always do something with my birthday. I always host something. And this year we're doing a lovely dinner, and I love to celebrate every single year because yeah, life's too short not to. So those are my 26 learnings in 26 years. I hope you enjoyed them. I hope I haven't just rambled on for like 25 minutes. I tried to keep this short and sweet. No one wants a solo episode that bangs on for 40 minutes. So I hope you enjoyed it. I found it very uncomfortable talking to my camera and my microphone in my flat, but I've got Marley next to me, so I do have a slight guest, I guess. But thank you so much for all your support. This podcast is going nowhere, so please keep following and supporting. Let me know if you like these solo episodes. Let me know what guests you'd like to see. Honestly, interaction with people who listen to the podcast mean the world. And any messages I get, honestly, they make my day. So yeah, thank you for your support. Thank you for listening, and have a lovely, lovely rest of your day.